Kalimera, kalispera, kalinichta. No matter where in this wild, wacky, and sometimes wonderful world you might be, thank you for making the Highbury Squad part of your day. Broadcasting an unusual hour, but when you get this guy, you broadcast at any time. And he's in the motherland. Let's rock and roll, squaddies.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Yes. For those who've been able to make a 4:45 p.m. show today, thanks for joining. For those listening on replay and our audio platforms, appreciate you too. We are delighted to welcome back to Squad Central one of our favourites. It's Mr. James Green from Sky Sports News. Bosh. At ease, James.
At ease, as always. How are you? Happy?
I'm happy, but now I'm a little bit jealous because you are on the beautiful island of love known as Cyprus, my motherland, and you are Listen, just show the listeners what a good beer looks like.
A
Gabriel. Oh,
Gabriel, it's great. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I've drank far too many of these this last week, I must admit. But when in Cyprus, you've got to do it. Eat some great souvlaki. Oh, it's been amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Love it.
My partner's Yaya has been looking after us.
No, you got old Yaya. Look, does any food taste better than Yaya's food? I don't think so.
Oh my goodness me! And their barbecues are just out of this world. Out of this world. But it's been amazing. Yeah, it's beautiful. Sunset time now. What a great trip, and topped off by yesterday's game as well. Put a smile.
Yeah, love it. James did share his sunset view with me earlier, and let me tell you, it's paradise, absolute paradise. Welcome, squaddies. Thank you for joining. Come on, you Gunners. Love for all the squaddies. Welcome, James. Hello, Carol, Aditya, PW. Tom is here. Ian's here. Thanks to everyone who's joined. BX Gunner, Brady's Banana is here. And it's an early show. For those who always say, why don't you go earlier? Well, here we are. We're a little bit earlier. And we're able to do it today with James. And I was thinking about the game, woke up with another Monday morning North London derby buzz, James. And I was exchanging messages yesterday with Perry Groves, and we were saying, he said, I 1-0 to the Arsenal. I've seen and heard this before. And, Super Kev would have loved yesterday's performance. He would have absolutely loved, because he always used to say, I'll take 1-0 boring wins all week if it means winning the title. So here we are. But before we get your take on all of that, I wanted to talk about something that has really made the news, has got fans all riled up, and even some pundits riled up, and ex-referees even riled up. James, what is going on? This picture courtesy of Sky Sports News. 65 yellow cards, 65 yellow cards, and 7 yellow cards in our first half alone in the North London derby. It is getting a little crazy. What is your take on this nonsense? And a lot of fans are like, the referee wants to be the star of the show. A good referee game is when you don't talk about the referee. It's become a little bit of a pandemic, James.
Yeah, it has. It's up over 10% on the record for a match day. So it's a big shift. It's a big change. I actually had I try not to have too much to say on Twitter, or X as it's called, because sometimes you're losing a battle that you're never going to win. You're never, ever going to win it. It's pointless. But I had a few back and forths with a journalist at ESPN, Dale Johnson, I think it is. And a couple of weeks ago after the Declan Rice incident. And I said to him, what has happened after that is there's a dangerous precedent now set. And the dangerous precedent is that teams will expect every single time now that yellow cards are given for any sort of kicking the ball away, getting in a way when someone's trying to take a free kick. And I mean, I'm not saying they've been totally consistent, but we've seen it a hell of a lot more this weekend. And some of them, quite frankly, they don't need to do it. Saliba, he wouldn't have really got a yellow card normally. He held the ball for a bit longer, but it wouldn't have been a yellow card. The ref would have said, look, just don't do that again. Bentancur, to be fair, exactly the same in that game as well, when he kind of blocked the ball, stopped us from taking it quick. Like, it wasn't a big deal. They've set a precedent and they're now having to stick with it because they've stuck by what the referee did in our previous game before the international break with Declan Rice. And they've gone, well, we're kind of going to have to be hot on this now, and even hotter now, because all eyes are on us. And in fact, it's actually making things worse. And they're giving yellow cards out like it's Christmas. And it's going to get ridiculous. It was ridiculous. I mean, 7 in that first half. It wasn't even that sort of game, was it, between Arsenal and Tottenham? It wasn't bitty. There wasn't too many bad challenges going in. It felt a bit like a load of nonsense, really. I think it was at Chelsea-Bournemouth, 14 yellow cards. I think it's 14 that game. It just seems
Anthony
now.
Taylor, I think.
Was that Anthony Taylor? It just seems now it's just so easy to get a yellow card, and it changes how teams set up. It changes how teams approach games. You know, if you're getting early yellow cards for defenders, midfielders, you've got to be so careful, even more careful than ever before. And personally, I think it's going to start ruining the spectacle, in my opinion. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, listen, if a player, I don't like that like Declan Rice, for example, allowed and gave the referee permission to make a decision. And when a referee isn't logical, and what I heard Keith Hackett saying earlier today was he had all the power to pull Declan Rice aside and said, look, you're on the radar now. You do that again, I'm just telling you, you'll be off. Like, there's no logic left. It just seems like they're so quick to brandish the card. And my issue is we've got to be smarter. However, the inconsistency is what gets my goat. And I think what gets not only Arsenal fans goat, but opposing fans too. You can't have the Brighton player. I think, was it who? I can't remember who kicked the ball 30 yards in the first half.
João Pedro.
João Pedro. And then not discipline him. Same thing happened yesterday. And I think it was a free kick in our defensive area. And it was a Tottenham player that kicked it away again. No card. Same thing happened in the Liverpool game. This is the problem. If they could just be consistent, James, fans would accept decisions wholeheartedly. But when it feels like you're being singled out, and when it happens to your team, that's how you feel. But it's definitely happening across the league in other facets of the game. And everyone's been hit by the inconsistencies last season, and it's already started this season. So that's my biggest issue, is be consistent. Last season, we saw it with the handballs, with VAR. I mean, all of it was just nonsense, wasn't it?
Yeah, look, I completely agree. The consistency that it riles you up as a football fan. You just hate to see it because then what happens is, and as we saw after the Declan Rice incident, well, they all hate Arsenal. And look, I hope the reality is that that's not the case. It just, we feel like we're hard done by as football fans. It's not just Arsenal fans. We've got to be honest with us. There'll be all other football fans of every single Premier League team and team across the country who will be able to show examples where it hasn't gone their way because of inconsistencies. So it does happen. And that's what's frustrating. Yeah. I think, the Liverpool was Szoboszlai and he was on a yellow card and he kicked the ball away. And it's like, you're saying about consistency, but the problem is they've gone too far now again. And it goes back to what you said about Keith Hackett. I think that is a sensible way of approaching refereeing and officiating. I really do. But it seems like now, and speaking to others, that common sense isn't actually a part of it. We've got to stick to the rules. The rules have to be abided by. These are the rules. That's the line. We're not going to apply any common sense whatsoever to it. And when you listen to Dermot Gallagher after the Declan Rice incident, a former head of referees, and he said, well, actually, Kavanagh used common sense by giving a yellow card. Well, it's absolute nonsense. One of the biggest nonsense I've ever heard. No, he didn't. He chose to stick to the rule. the technical rule, but he didn't have to at all. It was a nothing decision. We know that. One of the worst, one of the worst I've seen. I think just to ruin a football match for no reason, where it was just so easy not to do that. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think that's what
Yeah.
infuriates fans. If he didn't send Declan Rice off there, Brighton are not going to be complaining about that after the game. It wasn't a big incident. It wasn't a game-changing incident, like they tried to make us believe after the game, but it wasn't. So look, yeah, unfortunately, I think we're going to see more of it. And then what will happen is there'll be another meeting. They'll talk about it a bit more and realise they've gone far too far now. We've got to try and change this again. So yeah, I expect this phase to continue a little bit longer, and then maybe next international break, which is not that long away, sadly, there'll be another discussion, and maybe they'll be a bit more lenient on the rules, which again confuses fans no end once more.
Yeah.
But,
Yep. Let's see. We've had two of the worst. There's no doubt the Martinelli throw, the double yellow. That was
that was
ridiculous.
the worst. That was the
That's
worst.
the worst. I think that was worse for sure. All right, let's get stuck
God.
into the gloriousness that is the Monday morning buzz, Monday afternoon, bragging rights until we meet at the Emirates. The performance at Tottenham, the North London derby, victorious Arsenal. I want to get your take before I get into some specifics with you, because last week I was talking about who Mikel Arteta would trust, who starts where, what is he going to do? We know that Mikel has learned from taking risks and trying putting square pegs in round holes. Well, I think that he's learned. We wore the away kit. I think it was the first time in 9 years we hadn't worn red, and I was worried, James, that we were going to be absolutely jinxed. Team news came out, and I wondered what you thought about the starting 11 firstly, and then I want to get stuck into some of the tactics and the partnerships that emerged from the game.
Yeah, I think pre-game, obviously, there was a huge concern about Ødegaard not being there, Declan Rice not being there. I think after the transfer window, I put something out that going through the whole team, we seem to have replacements for every single position on the pitch, apart from Martin Ødegaard, a natural replacement in that position. I still firmly believe that we're really heavily reliant on him and what he can do. So, look, it was always going to be a big worry for me. The thing that I grasped onto was the fact that our defensive unit was settled and solid. Nobody was missing. The way we've defended over the last 18 months, 2 years has been sensational. It's improving every single game, it feels like. So I felt like defensively we could hold out, but it was, where was the creativity going to come from? Trossard had to start for me. It was, it's been a bit of a shame that this is going to come across really harsh, so I'm going to watch what I say here, but it was a shame going into a game against Tottenham that I feel like we were almost forced to play Martinelli on the left. Now, Martinelli did, I thought, a pretty decent job, but his form's just not been good enough, in my opinion, to offer what we need on that left-hand side. It was missing all last season. We were very lopsided last season with our attack, and we just needed him to get this confidence back that just feels like it's missing. That final ball, that final third, in the final third, his shooting boots seem to have gone as well. So look, I was a bit like, okay, a bit wary. I thought Tottenham's side was interesting though, and then it kind of switched my head and went, actually, no, Martinelli could be pretty useful because we're going to play on counter, because Tottenham are packing the midfield area full of attacking players. They're going to try and push on to Arsenal and press really high. So actually what that does is leave space in behind. So I thought, okay, well, this could work really well. So actually, look, it was one of them, certainly in the midfield, you knew Jorginho was going to come in. I just felt the only alternative really for that Ødegaard position was dropping Trossard in. I didn't want to move Hazard back. I know there were calls for some that Arteta maybe should have dropped him back and Trossard as a false nine, but Havertz is working so well in that position at the moment. And Trossard, in all honesty, if he was playing in that false nine, would have been bullied by Romero and Van der Ven. So I think that was right. I was actually pretty happy with the lineup.
Yeah, I agree. And I had a different take on it when I was talking to TalkSport yesterday with regards to Martinelli. I think in this particular game, bearing in mind we had lost two of our best players, which, by the way, I felt like our defense was ready for the match because it's like, listen, they're not the only two players that play for the Arsenal.
For
Hello,
sure.
we're the defensive wall, the great wall of the Arsenal. And I think Martinelli played the game that Arteta wanted him to play versus the game that we are used to watching him play and what we want to see. Do you think that's a fair statement? Granted, his form hasn't been the best, but I thought he worked so hard yesterday, and I don't think he deserves too much criticism, bearing in mind that Mikel had to adapt, change tactics, and asked him specifically to do something. Now, he had a great opportunity to cross the ball in the box to Saka, and he didn't. Do I want him to look up more? Yes. Do I want him to release the ball quicker? Yes. But I thought yesterday was a bit of an anomaly considering the task at hand.
Yeah, totally agree. I think that's a really good way of looking at it as well. And look, I like I said, I'm treading carefully because I don't want to be critical because I thought, same as you, that he provided real good width on that left hand side. He pushed Pedro Porro back at every opportunity. Actually, we didn't see Porro come forward that much on the right hand side, and that was due to Martinelli and the strength in his pace getting in behind. So, look, I think you're spot on with that. I just want to see him firing. I really want to see him firing. I still think there's the player in there. It's just this, like I said, he works really hard. He's a great team player. You can, as Arsenal fans, we can never, ever criticize his work rate. He will run back. He will track back, as he proved yesterday. He does that in abundance. You know, he took the pressure away by making some really good runs in behind. There was a lot of runs actually he made that he wasn't found by teammates, but he was making these really smart runs, staying on side a little bit more than maybe he does at times. And look, I was really impressed. Yeah, I'm just desperate to see that confidence come back. Now, look, the ball to Saka, yes, he should have played it, but I was almost like, do you know what? If you're that confident, go on, strike it then. Have that confidence. The fact he had the confidence to take the shot was a good thing, but he's just not in that position right now, mentally, confidence-wise, in his ability. So, yeah, look, I'd love to see him cross it, but he did a great job. I'm not here to criticise anyone yesterday because I really do believe 1 to 11, Arsenal were outstanding in the job that they needed to do yesterday.
So let's talk about that a little bit because I think my cousin may have just not had a good day when he said to me, he said to me a few weeks ago, he goes, this Timber guy, I'm not sure. And I said, listen, just shut up. I mean, I don't usually tell people to shut up, but I had to tell George to shut up because I think yesterday we saw exactly the player that we missed last season more than any game that he's played since he's been back from his injury. And what he's added, I know that we had a conversation last week on the show where we talked about, have we missed the forward movement of Zinchenko and how he connects the dots once the ball comes out from the back, more so than what Timber is offering in that area. But over the last couple of games, I've been like, I'd rather have that than the risk of something else. But I still think Zinchenko brings value to the team and he's a good squad player and can come off the bench, help us keep the ball with 20 minutes to go. Whether or not he's going to want to play that role, I don't know. But I thought Timber yesterday showed fans what he's made of, and also these kinds of moments endear you to the fan base very quickly. Your take on Timber and his contribution yesterday?
Yeah, look, I think you summed it up really well. And the fact you have to mention his injury because his injury is relevant. You know, you out for a whole season, an ACL injury, it takes so long to recover from that. And people expect now, because these are supreme athletes, that they're going to just come back and everything's going to be fine. As soon as they get the training done, they're back to normal. You know, with an ACL injury, it doesn't work like that. And it's not just about your ability to last 90 minutes. It's not just your ability to get back playing football like you used to, but it's also having that mentality and confidence in your body that it's not going to do that again. And that takes so long to get back to. For Timber, I think you summed it up perfectly. Look, this is no slight on Zinchenko at all, but I think there are certain games where Zinchenko is going to really help us and will be a better fit. but there's going to be a lot more games where Yuri and Timber is a better fit. And actually, our fixtures, let's be honest, have been pretty tough to start the season with. We have to be realistic. A trip to Villa, home to inform Brighton, now a trip to Tottenham, trip to City on the weekend. You need to be defensively solid. These are the games for Yuri and Timber. Yuri and Timber will be that big game player. Now, if there's games where maybe we can rest him, because he will need rest, because you've got to manage him really carefully. And bear in mind, I think that was his first 90 minutes for Arsenal, which is astounding, really. There will be times where Zinchenko is going to play a key role for us, for sure. But look, Timber, we saw the best of him. Defensively, really quick, solid, really confident on the ball. Seems to just has seamlessly fitted into that back four and built that strong unit, or back five. I've got to include David Raya in that because he's a big part of it too. And really solid contributor. Just what we need in that left back position. It's been a question position for a couple of years, a few years probably. I think we have to be realistic about that. I don't think Zinchenko was always the answer. I thought he's done a really good job at times. I think he's been criticised unduly, but Timber's the real deal. He's the one that offers you that real ability to switch up into that three, but still maintain that solidity at the back. He can go into midfield, but he still feels like defensively he's a lot more assured. He's a bit more safer on the ball. Maybe won't play those passes that Zinchenko will, but he's a lot more reliable in those bigger games. I'm touching wood here, but I just don't see him making those big errors in those key positions that we have seen from Zinchenko in the past. So really impressed.
Yeah, fair statement on that. I don't know if Mikel listens to the show, but one of my favorite sayings is that winning ugly is beautiful.
I'm sure he does. He listens all the
time. And he made a comment about how the players, love what they've had to do over the last few days, and that winning ugly is something that you just have to do. And his quote was, they love doing ugly things. And I absolutely love this. And maybe not, it's easy to put like the players on the thumbnail for today's show, but I had to show the respect to Mikel and Nicklas as well, because when we talk about partnerships, it's also important to recognize that our coaching staff have partnerships too. And that quote of love doing ugly things, I thought was so important, because in the past we've been so gung-ho. And I think he learned as well from, playing City in the past, going gung-ho maybe, not as much as Wenger or Emery did, but to see this discipline and this pragmatic style, which, by the way, previous managers in the Premier League that have won the Premier League were lauded for. But when we do it, or Mikel does it, it's anti-football. I will not have it. And winning ugly is beautiful. And I think that Mikel is starting to, now I'm not saying mastering the art of winning, championships, but he's mastering the art of understanding the moment and what you need to do to win. And to see him overcome adversity, and people will be like, oh, but you still had this player, you still had that player. Those two players missing were huge, James, absolutely massive. And especially, when you think about Odegaard and how everything good that happens goes through him. So I wanted to get your take first on the hiring of Nicklas Jova. And I don't know if it's Jova or Jova or how he pronounces the last name, but it was Mikel that took him to Manchester City. And he thankfully brought him to the Arsenal as well. I think we've scored something like 17 goals from corners and 42 goals in total. And Squaddies, you'll correct me, 42 goals in totals from set pieces since he's been here. This partnership and this understanding at this level, and to have someone like him whose intelligence is able to further elevate the way Arsenal play. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, totally. Look, you make some really, really key points. I think if we think about Arsenal over many years, and if we do go as far back as Arsene Wenger, there was certainly for a long period of his reign, after, I would say certainly after the Invincibles, it was very much a one way of playing. There wasn't really a plan B. There was no other ways of looking at the game, maybe. I felt like we lacked that at times. We lacked the ability to win ugly back then. Mikel Arteta's realised very quickly that, okay, look, we're going to have a lot of possession. We're going to play against teams that are going to sit back behind the ball a lot, which we see week in, week out. It's not going to be easy to break these teams down, which again, I think sometimes fans need to understand and appreciate in the Premier League in particular. You've played against some really good players week in, week out, and they're efficient at what they can do. And it just because you're playing against, say, an Everton, a Fulham, a Brentford, etc., whoever it might be, it doesn't mean that it's going to be straightforward. They have the ability to nullify you and nullify your threats. And we've seen with Nicklas, I think it's Jova. So I'm going to say Jova with Nicklas
Okay.
Jova. I
Thank
think
you.
it's Jova, and I would say Jova on TV anyway. It's probably wrong, but I'll say Jova. And I think with Nicklas Jova coming in, it's clear that Mikel Arteta sees certainly the value in set pieces. This is something, as you mentioned, he brought him to Manchester City. You know, something that Pep Guardiola trusted Mikel Arteta to make that decision to bring him there. And he's brought him in for a reason, because he knows that the side in those games where open play opportunities are limited, this is your opportunity to get yourself off the mark. And look, the change in it has been monumental. I think all Arsenal fans will certainly know pre-Mikel Arteta and pre this golden age of set piece goals, there'd be a corner. I don't know about you, Soph. I used to watch it. I go, it's a corner. Oh, what's the point? What's the point? Because it was always a waste. We never had. First of all, we
never cleared the first
never cleared the
defender.
front post. If we did, we never had any
find
players.
a player that does that. We should have fined players for doing that.
100%. I agree.
Go on.
No, I totally with you. And we never seem to have any height in the box. Never seem to have that aggression, that willingness, that want and will and desire to try and attack a ball. But we've got that now. And again, and this goes back to a lot of the recruitment side of things as well. We can get on to Gabriel. I love that guy. I think he's unreal. Well, I'll get on to him in a minute. But the recruitment has been so important about players, not just their ability, but actually they're looking at statistics, as in their height, their build. They're looking at these things. You think of the successful Manchester City side, although they've got these masters and have these masters in midfield, around them, surround them has been real height. You think about Rodri, you think about Haaland, you think about the back four. We've got that now in abundance. Declan Rice, Kai Havertz, Gabriel, Saliba, Ben White. These are tall players who are good in the air and can offer a real opportunity for us in the opponent's box. So look, it's been part of the practice that's been put in for some time. We're reaping the rewards right now, and it's a real important facet of our game. Because I'll tell you what, one thing as well. So before I stop talking for a second, because I talk too much, but there'll be a lot of teams that spend there'll be a lot of teams who spend a lot of time preparing for Arsenal, but they'll also spend a lot of that time preparing at set pieces. So they can do that, but that's also taking away time concentrating on actually the other facets of Arsenal's game, where they can completely destroy you and take over games. So it offers complexion for opposition managers, opposition coaches, and it's a real benefit for us. And it's such a strong point.
Yeah, no, good stuff. And I love what you said about the recruitment too. The DNA and profile of the Arsenal player now is at such a different level. And I like how we've been able to infuse. I think we have 8 players over 6 feet now.
Yeah, Moreno, another one, right?
Yeah, totally quite tall. So I did put the pick up of Big Gabby a bit prematurely, but I want to start with him because I want to riff off him to get to the next phase of my partnership conversation with you. And I get it. Saliba is an incredible player. He's so elegant. He reminds you of a classic, Italian defender. He has all of the attributes. And I thought he was brilliant yesterday, and he's generally brilliant. Ballon d'Or nominations. I feel that Big Gabby, who some Arsenal fans, by the way, were ready to sail down the river to Juventus at one point, deserves his flowers and the respect. And when we're talking about those set pieces, it's Gabriel who's getting on the end of most of them. I actually think Saliba needs to do a bit of a better job in the box when he's given the opportunity at set pieces. But that is absolutely nitpicking. But when you see him, rise these pictures, what he does, I do feel like he has become the beast to Saliba's beauty. And it reminds me of Rio Ferdinand and Vidic at Manchester United, but I don't think that what Gabriel does gets enough love and credit. He's so special. And what he brings to that defensive unit, that partnership, is unreal. First, tell me, there's a fly that just keeps bugging me here. Tell me your thoughts on Big Gabby, what he means to this team. Because when I think of either one of those two being injured, I think it would have been a lot different yesterday. Coping without Saliba and Gabby is a lot worse than coping without Odegaard and Rice. Fair or foul? And let me know what you think about Gabby.
I think that's a tight one, because I think we've got some others who can step in at the back, but that's not discredited, only because I think Odegaard is our key, but that's not discrediting those two. Look, Gabby, I've been a huge fan ever since the World Cup 2022, when Saliba came back from that World Cup, and after that World Cup, he really struggled. Now, I know he had a little back injury, and eventually that took him out for the remainder of the season. But in that period, Gabriel was superb. He stepped up. And the one thing I like about Gabriel is that he's just improved. And he's improved over and over again. And for years, Arsenal fans, we've all been asking of our coaches, please just bring in players and improve them. We want to see our players improve and get better. And Gabriel, to me, last season in particular, was the most improved player in the whole Premier League. In my opinion, without a shadow of a doubt, I don't think it's even close. The respect he's now getting is long overdue, because I still believe at the back end of 2023, I thought he was one that actually kept us in that title race. He was so valuable at the back there. We lost the league, yes, we lost points and then ended up losing the league. But I tell you what, if Gabby weren't there, it'd have been a lot worse. It'd have been over a long time before. I thought he was sensational, really showed improvement. I love the fact in the past he would get involved in stuff that he didn't need to. He would go to ground when he didn't need to. He would commit big errors, fouls in the box, whatever it might be. He's not doing that anymore. And and talk about partnership. I mean, they just complement each other so well. You couldn't have put it any better. And I don't think Gabby will care that you called him a beast, because it's a good beast, and it's a beast that Arsenal have been needing for a long, long time. Saliba is that beauty. You're spot on. So calm on the ball, smart, clever. He's so intelligent. But Gabby will take on any challenge that is thrown his way. And I tell you what, Erling Haaland won't be relishing going up against him on Sunday. As much as Erling Haaland is in frightening form right now, he knows what a torrid time Gabriel gave him last season. And I expect more of the same come Sunday. But he's been outstanding, and you're spot on. In the box, opposition box, Gabriel's the aggressor. He's the one desperate to get on the end of every single ball that gets brought into that box. And I love it. And I'm here for it. And he deserves all the props he gets.
I love it. Yeah, I'm so happy to have a player like him in our team, and the way he's celebrated as well, with so much passion. And
The best.
there's I saw this scene, and I don't know who created the GIF, but well done, because when you see this, I think that he has so much to do with the attitude of our players, but also connecting with the fans. I love this. I think this is awesome. It's so good.
Oh, that's so great.
Isn't it? I mean,
But
this
look at who's his biggest cheerleader?
Saliba.
They
Yes.
celebrate each other. I love them so much. And honestly, so like even Gabby, when Raya makes a save, he's the first one there, and then Saliba follows in, and they both just jump up and down and pump each other's chests. Like they get it. They get this Arsenal DNA. They are winners, and they are desperate to do something special for this club. And as fans, we're all here to see. That's all we want. We want to see this passion. And Gabriel's got passion in abundance. He really has.
Yeah, he really, really does. And, you know, it's so funny. I saw someone write, find a hype man like Saliba because of how he was telling Trossard to celebrate when he was pissed that he didn't start. And then the way he was just like, these two, honestly, we have to keep them forever and ever and ever. I mean,
ever.
To me, I said it out loud, and I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing what everyone who listens on replay thinks in the YouTube comments. I do honestly believe that yesterday would have gone different without those two versus Odegaard and Declan Rice. They're that fundamentally important to the team. However, you mentioned David Raya earlier, who in the first half definitely made a couple of really, really great saves. And when you look at these four, and then Jurien couldn't make this shot, but I did put one up of him earlier with the guys. I think this one was from the preseason tour, AFC Picks. Go follow AFC Picks. WI33E puts up some great shots and stuff. When you add these guys together and collectively, the way that picture from the tunnel where they're looking at the opposition, I think we're starting to intimidate teams before the game has even kicked off. And their chemistry is important. And David Raya is getting a lot of love now. Benjamin White, I still think, isn't getting as much of the love, but fans have definitely fallen in love with him. This group, this partnership, it started off with the Gabriel Saliba, but then Benjamin White came into his own as well, James. Show me a better defensive partnership, a group in Europe than the Arsenals right now.
Totally agree. And look, they're proving it on the pitch, aren't they? Conceded the fewest goals in the Premier League last season. Look at these stats of away games in 2024. Was it 11 played, 10-1, 1-2, and conceded 3 goals? I mean, it's unbelievable. This side doesn't like conceding goals. They don't want to concede goals. They fight for every single defensive challenge that they need to put in. I think it's been sensational. And look, I know that you yourself questioned the David Raya thing and situation. We spoke about that at length before. But for me, Mikel Arteta has proved right every single time David Raya steps out on that field. He is so solid. He, for coming for crosses, he's got such safe hands. He makes the right decision every single time, it feels like. You know, we can criticize Vicario. He's the complete opposite. He doesn't like coming for crosses. David Raya, great on his feet. He's a great shot stopper. He's just, to me, he's got all facets. And he fits in so well with those back four or back five, whoever you want to put in there, and it works so well. There's so much more confidence with that back line, in my opinion, with David Raya behind them, and it's just setting us up moving forward. And look, you know, we have got Champions League to come. We have, you know, got a long season ahead of us. But if defensively we can keep at this rate that we're doing at the moment, you've got to think we're going to stand in good stead to hopefully, potentially lift the trophy at the end of it.
How do you think our defense stacks up against City's?
At the moment, I think better.
Yeah.
I truly do. I don't think our attack is, but I think our defense is at the moment more solid now. I think a lot of people will say that Ederson, Alisson, the best keepers in the Premier League. I don't see why David Raya is not in that conversation, certainly over Ederson, in my opinion. Ederson very good with his feet, no doubt about it. He's a very good goalkeeper. But David Raya should be in that conversation, in my opinion. Look, centre-backs, I don't think City have got 2 better centre-backs than what we've got. And fundamentally, when we talk about a defence of a team, you look at who's those back two, who's those big centre-backs, who's a solid base of that team. And nobody's better than Saliba and Gabriel at the moment. So, look, for me, I think we've got a better defence than Man City. I really, truly believe that. And I'm not thinking with my Arsenal hat on, because I can sit here and say they've got a much better attack than us. So look, I think that's what makes it difficult. That's why Manchester City struggled against us last season. They struggled against us
Yeah.
because of our defensive unit and how we set up and how Mikel Arteta has them when they haven't got the ball. And we saw that in abundance yesterday. I saw a few comments from some people watching the game, maybe with in my opinion, maybe not the knowledge of what football's all about sometimes, but Arsenal were fully in control of that game, in my opinion. I
Me
thought,
too.
even though we didn't have the ball for 65% maybe of the time, we were so in control. And that's the trust now that Arteta has built with Arsenal. Without the ball, there is no better team in this country than Arsenal, better than Man City without the ball. And they just have this unit in this way that teams just can't get around. Tottenham had a lot of attacking players on that pitch, and they just couldn't figure it out. They couldn't work out how to get through Arsenal. And it was a real masterclass. I think one of your listeners just said it as well. It really was. It was a Mikel Arteta special. Let's put some props out there for someone like Jorginho coming in. He doesn't play very often now. He knows his role in the squad. He played 90 minutes. I thought he was excellent in what he needed to do. Arteta didn't ask too much of him. We weren't going to play through the middle. That wasn't the plan. The times we tried to dilly-and-dally on the ball in the midfield, we got caught in possession. That wasn't the plan. The plan was different. Spurs like to press. They don't like to let you play through the middle. We haven't got the players in that starting 11 yesterday that really are that comfortable at that level on the ball to be able to break through. So what's he do? Changes it up. And he starts playing deeper in the pockets, wide. Saka, Martinelli, over the top, long to Havertz. Just a little bit breaking it up, doing something different. And it worked perfectly.
I agree, totally. Speaking of 60, did I say it's 65 yellow cards handed out this weekend? Harvey,
Yes.
You know how much I love you. It's a yellow card for Harvey. Don't go anywhere. We love having you and your opinions on the show. But when you type in caps the whole time, it's a bit like it's like you're shouting. Okay, it's it's online decorum, and I know. Don't say you're gonna unsubscribe and leave. I don't want you to leave. I'm just in a fun way. I'm giving you a yellow card, all right? Because you can literally just type in lower caps and put some things in big caps. So then when you want to, is it accentuate your comment? No. Yes, thank you. Then
accentuate.
I can see it and say, oh, wow, yeah, it pops, right? So yellow card for you. I've got 6 yellow cards already this season. So I'm going to be banned from my own show. All right.
I got one yesterday for dancing after a few beers after the game. My missus was not impressed. So Harvey, don't worry about it, mate. You're not your own.
Love it. Right. Okay, so we talked about the partnerships and how I think we definitely have some of the best in Europe. A masterclass without the ball, says Lone Star, and I agree. Okay, Seb, that's funny. Now everyone's going to be typing in caps. Don't go, Harvey. Sophie's always in a cap. Very clever, you guys. Love it. Hit the like button for us, please, if you are enjoying this conversation with James. So, James, we do have now the juggernaut. I'm going to finish on these 2 subjects with you. By the way, I did a SWOT analysis with Harry about a month ago, and I love doing those strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Right now, injuries they're a threat because you can't control them. Things happen in football, right? But going into the Manchester City game, before I touch on the Champions League with you, what do you think are some of our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities? How do you see things going into this match? Declan Rice comes back. By the way, I agree with the squaddies in the chat. Jorginho and Partey deserve a round of applause. Jorginho captaining the side, leading by example. Didn't think they had a good first 20 minutes, but they were there, and their experience and the support they gave to the back line was massive. How do you see us setting up against Manchester City?
Yeah, nice. I'm glad they're getting their props, because sometimes we just have to maybe just lower our expectations a little bit. You know, Jorginho isn't Declan Rice. Thomas Partey isn't Declan Rice. Trossard in that middle isn't Martin Odegaard. So we have to think about, okay, well, what have they been told to do? They haven't been told to play like Odegaard. Jorginho wasn't told to play like Declan Rice. And it's just about the efficiency of the job they're asked to do. And to me, they from our squad players. So that was really important. Look, strengths, backline, defensive unit without the ball. Need that against Manchester City. Strengths, I'm sticking with strengths for a little bit as well, is that we've just had that Tottenham game. And I think as fans, we can all look at this week before Tottenham and go, oh my God, Tottenham away, Atalanta away, Man City away. Oh shit, this is a real tough week. But the language coming out of the squad and the players has been, we know what this week is all about, but we are up for that task. We're up for that challenge. We're not afraid of any of these games, and we will be ready regardless of how little time we might have to prepare. So that's an opportunity the players see this as, you know what, we've got an opportunity to prove a lot of people wrong. We've got an opportunity to take points off Man City at the end of the week to end a real tough week. So a lot of opportunities. Weaknesses still, look, you know, we raved about set pieces and it's great. It's a great strength of ours. Again, another strength. But open play, I still want to see us try and create a little bit more. And when we do, be a little bit more clinical. Against Manchester City, we might not have bucket loads of opportunities, but we've got to be more clinical. And again, that does go to the opportunities that Martinelli had. Got to take those chances against Man City because you will pay for them against them. You won't pay for it against the Tottenham, but you will against Man City. So, yeah, we've got that and threats. They've got a striker who just cannot stop scoring, and he looks absolutely frightening right now. He looks unbelievable. It's sensational. It's amazing to see. Look, as a football fan, it's great to see. You know, we've talked and seen Messi and Ronaldo for years and years and years, and the numbers they've put up, and everyone said, no one's ever going to get numbers like that. It's never going to happen. I think there's one man that is producing numbers like that right now, and he's got this bit between his teeth at the moment where he is hungry. He is starving right now. I mean, that's look, I watched the joy of being out here in Cyprus, the motherland, is ironic enough, you can watch 3 p.m. kickoffs, as can you in America. And I watched Man City Brentford, and despite the 2-1 scoreline, Man City were frightening. They could, honestly, it could have been 7-1. They were frighteningly good going forward. They looked such a threat. So, look, Arsenal going to have to bring their A game. Gabriel and Saliba got to shut Haaland down. It's going to be a fascinating battle at that end of the pitch for sure. But look, you know, they've got some belief now, and belief that they can perform that way against Tottenham, do what they need to do to get the right result, despite losing 2 of their best players. And one of them's going to be back. So look, positives say opportunity with Rice back in as well.
That's fair. That's fair. And I also think it's fair to say that Terence says Haaland world class versus smaller teams. I mean, he has done it against big teams too. I think that we have definitely performed very well against him. I say we, our centre backs have. And he does seem like
season
there's a chip on his
we
shoulder.
didn't, though, did we?
No, we didn't. We didn't.
So.
He does have a chip on his shoulder, and I think he was a little disrespected last season. I can't believe people are actually criticising him and that our Man City better without Haaland. Are you joking? Are you? I just think that's absolute a nonsense narrative. Right. So, how are you managing the week, James? We've got Atalanta on Thursday. And by the way, squaddies, we're going to have a very special preview show of the Champions League showdown with Atalanta with a special Italian guest. But how do you manage the week? Because this is getting tight schedule-wise.
Yeah, it's getting tight. It's the joy, isn't it? International breaks, and now we've got 800 Champions League games to fit in as well. I hate the new schedule. I know some people will love it. I really don't. An extra 2 games, it's just awful. Look, it's a tough week, but I don't think you manage it. I think you tell them we've got to do everything to get through Sunday. You got EFL Cup, I think, the week after. That's when they can have their rest, and the squad players can come in, and the young players can come in. But defense stays exactly the same. They wouldn't change anyway. Centre backs, goalkeeper, it's not going to change. Timber could be interesting against Atalanta in particular. I'd be if Zinchenko is fit and available, I'd be tempted to probably play him just because 90 minutes for the first time, as we mentioned yesterday. I'd rather see him play a little bit in Atalanta and then be fit for Sunday. Ben White stays. Rice comes in for Jorginho. Saka just going to play because he does, and he's as much as we want to protect him and wrap him in cotton wool, he plays. If he's fit, he plays. If he had a bit of cramp, he'll be fine.
Would you start Sterling?
I would actually in Atalanta, definitely. I would definitely start him. I'd start him on the left. I'd see how he does. I would, that takes away the Martinelli. How I feel about Martinelli, but I think we need to see what Sterling has to give from start. So yeah, I would. His experience as well at that level, I think, will be valuable. So I'd definitely start him on the left. But look, they're going to go strong for the next 2 games. That again, as I said, we're already hearing messages out of the squad that they know how tough this is, but they're not shying away from it. And Arteta's always said it as well. He's been asked so many times about really when there's been real tough weeks, he said they have to get on with it. That's how it is. Get on with it. Not my problem. This is a fixtures. He might not be happy about it, but it's like players have to get on with it. They have to show it. They have to dig deep. They have to find that energy, that resolve amongst them. He's always said that, and he'll be saying that to them this week. But he doesn't need to say it this week. After Tottenham, they know. Come on, they know, and they're buzzing, and they'll be ready to get back on the pitch again. So trust me, if we'd lost that game, it might have been a different story going into this week. But winning that game, there's a huge belief even more now in that squad that, okay, we've got Champions League, which is always exciting. It's going to be really tough. Atalanta are a great side, play really good football. So that's going to be a really tough challenge. But, this is what they're in it for. And, yeah, I'm all for it. I back the boys to get 2 good results this week.
Yeah, Atalanta as well. I think they've conceded 6 in their last 2, I believe. So there's going to be an opportunity there. Sterling with his Champions League experience, fresh legs. Jesus coming back from injury, I believe, will feature. He's so good in the Champions League for us. Really important. Declan Rice will be, he needed a little bit of an extra rest. It's kind of worked out in some way, because he looked knackered coming back from the Euros.
He did, yeah, he did. Right.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've heard, just real quick, what do your sources tell you about Calafiori? Do you know? You got?
I haven't heard any more than came back injured, wasn't serious, but then he obviously missed the game. So I haven't heard any extent at all.
Okay.
If I do, I'll let you know. Ødegaard's the big worry. Ødegaard, I think, longer than he's going to be.
Month.
You get nothing out of Mikel. We never do. You could have a toenail injury. He would not say a word. You could have you could have an ACL and he'd barely say anything. So he won't say anything. I fear Ødegaard's a bit more serious than maybe they're saying. So I think we've got to be patient with that one. But he's
very clever, isn't he, in his presses now? He's really learned the art of the press conference, and trying
doesn't
to
help us at all. So
no, I know. I mean, but there were actual Spurs fans thinking, they were asking me, is this mind games or is Ødegaard coming back? I go, if Ødegaard plays on Sunday, I'll wear a Tottenham shirt. That's how sure I am that Ødegaard wouldn't be playing on Sunday. Okay, I think that's the entire agenda done with Mr. James. By the way, a couple of our listeners, including Ian, would like to do this, to get you back and do a Q&A session with you, where the squaddies just get to ask you a whole bunch of questions about the Arsenal, Premier League and football in general. You'd be up for that?
Absolutely, my pleasure. Anything to help. I love coming on. I love what you do, Soph, as you know. But I love the fans. I love chatting and engaging with any fans. Anytime I get an opportunity to sit, chat, talk Arsenal. I did in my little pub over the road that I watched the game in. On Saturday, there was only a couple of us. There was mostly Tottenham fans, so it was very enjoyable at the end, in particular. But I love it. I love talking football, listening to opinions, because football is about opinions, and you've got to respect everybody's opinions. That's what it's all about. Look, do I think I'm gospel? Not at all. I get things wrong all the time, no doubt about it. But we all have our opinions, and other people do. They see the game differently through different eyes, and that's what it's all about. It's great. Love it. So yes, absolute pleasure.
Okay, you just said respect, and I was going to play this video and wondering if I shouldn't. I have to play it because I just think it's so funny, and it's just football banter. And in some ways, he's kind of done this to himself, but I got to play it. This is one of my favorite videos I've seen from the weekend, and you know, here we go. James, I had to do it. They love it.
What a way to end. Perfect.
And listen, you guys, if you have some time and you want to listen to another show, Fergus is in the chat from Guns and Yellow Ribbons. He's got scratches and bruises all over his body, but it's top with the biggest smile, getting prepared for his 7 p.m. show. So please go check that out, Guns and Yellow Ribbons. And don't forget, there's the football prizes. Auction tonight. You still have an opportunity. There's half hour. I don't know what time is it now in England? It's 5. You got 2 hours to get your ticket. It's $3.99. You could get hospitality to the Arsenal Leicester game and also the Arsenal Bolton Carabao Cup game as well. So please go over to Football Prizes, check it out. And James, you're a rock star. Enjoy your souvlaki. You having souvlaki tonight?
That's exactly what I'm having tonight. Exactly. Yeah. No, it's our last night in this beautiful spot where we're at now before we go and do family time for the next couple of days, and then fly back Thursday, and then out and about. I think at a press conference of some sort on Friday. Not sure where yet, but I'm sure it'll be revealed soon. So yeah, look, excited to see what happens this week. But thanks everyone for watching. All your nice comments. Really appreciate it.
Epic stuff. Thank you, James. And don't forget, you can follow James at James Green in UK on the old Twitter sphere. Until the next show, there'll be some great guests this week. Keep tuned into the community page and, of course, on social media. We've got some good stuff coming up for you this week. And until then, squaddies, at ease. And you remember the rules. There's only one. Don't forget to tell your loved ones you love them. Galinichta.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.